Hi,
Hello.
In gallery.
I have this on my phone. I can shut that off. I don't really need. Okay. It's awesome to meet you guys.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
It's
It's
not
so
that big.
exciting to get your messages.
Yeah, it's not that big of a community. It seems like so.
Yeah, and it seems like
Nice
it's
to.
already drama to do the Everyman schedule according to the subreddit.
You got that too. Did you
Yeah.
see my? I posted on there. I'm like, oh, I saw this thing, and I just start. Well, I read it in the 4 Hour Body, and it's like, oh shit, I want to do that.
Cool. Is that a book?
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that.
Tim Ferriss is like a blogger, author. He wrote the 4 Hour Work Week to how to set up your business so you can like streamline and everything.
Cool.
Now the 4 Hour Body is more about lifestyle and work, or less on work, more on like diet and health and sleep. And so I just found this maybe a week ago.
Wow. You commit fast.
So you're doing
Yeah.
polyphasic sleep right now, and you've been doing it for less than a week, and you've known about it for less than a week.
Yeah.
That's kind of awesome. Are you doing it by yourself too, or do you have someone helping you?
Yeah, I'm totally by myself. Like you guys are
How?
your videos are the thing that like sometimes gets me awake.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should do
Yeah.
that. That might help us.
Watch your own videos.
Yeah, well, it's because sometimes, it hasn't been perfect for us,
Yeah.
and I think after one of our harder days, I made like a list of like emergency stay awake tactics, things like walk in a circle, and I don't remember them. I wrote them down on purpose so we could just look at them.
Yeah.
But watch our own videos could be
Yeah.
like a good trick for like, a little bit of cringe to wake you up.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Shock. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Are you doing anything to document your progress?
I have a notebook. I had this like idea to do. I spilled water on it, so it looks crazy. Like 3 columns, and like my sleep, and then notes, and then like food, because I'm trying to work out and all of that kind of stuff. So
Cool. In the beginning, I was like,
yeah.
I'm gonna do one exercise every
Oh my
session.
god, I forgot that was your plan. That's so funny.
I was trying to like cycle through like a yoga video.
You were gonna do 6 exercises per day while adapting to the hardest like that's so over the top. How many? And you like 3 waking cycles.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
We've done a lot of exercise though.
That's true.
Yeah.
But like
That's one of my questions. Like with exercise, like is your body like healing quick enough after working out?
Well, we're not doing weightlifting, so I don't really feel like I'm doing stuff that makes me super sore.
Right, because you weightlift some at home.
Yeah.
In your normal life. I haven't been exercising very regularly in the pandemic. My life just sort of like exploded, so I became very sedentary. But I've been doing yoga more consistently during this experiment than I was at all beforehand, and I feel like yoga as a method of keeping myself awake in the hardest times has been helpful, and I haven't noticed a ton of soreness. I did try to start doing yoga before we started the polyphasic sleep, but I didn't do it consistently, so I don't think my body was fully used to it.
But I do remember on one of my previous cycles, I experienced soreness from going to the gym, and it was a really cool feeling to, instead of like going to sleep and waking up sore and going to sleep and then waking up okay, I could like feel my body getting sore, and then I could feel it healing. Which was
super aware of
so
like
cool.
my body. And yeah.
This was like in 2012 or whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a thing where even before, like, there's some of the posts like that started to explain like sleep deprivation, or that where I saw that word used instead of like adaptation, like, because my body knows sleep deprivation. And like I've had the like kind of these different outcomes when I'm working late, or I'm like up all night, like cramming on something like with school. What happens is my body starts, it feels like it's breaking down. And like I get some back pain, and my joints hurt more. And so I had those kind of symptoms or outcomes.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, like, if, because those have started to come back, like, is that a sign that I'm more in the negative realm? I'm not adapting, and will those things go away if I do get through adaptation, like the kind of negative side effects?
Yeah, I think going through the effects of sleep deprivation is part of it. Because before your body is learning to go into that REM sleep during the naps, and I don't have any science, just to be clear, you are pretty sleep deprived. So it takes that time until your body starts hitting REM to get that sleep.
Yeah. Something I found interesting in the Uber Sleep book was that the sleep deprivation actually is what gets your body to transition. Like sleep deprivation as an evolutionary like tool, we think, I mean, we don't really know a ton about it and what it's for, but it seems like all it actually is, it's a symptom in order to get you to fall asleep, because your body actually just wants you to sleep. It doesn't want you to be in pain or whatever. But that if you force yourself to experience the sleep deprivation and you tell it, you basically teach your body that the result of that pain is not that you go to sleep the way it wants you to, then it will adapt. And that pain is what makes it sort of urgent for your body to learn how to sleep in a new way, or get the sleep it needs in a new way. Which makes sense sort of it makes sense in a this level way. I don't know the like mechanism for our body or anything, so a grain of salt, but yeah.
So have you guys, I haven't seen the last week, or I guess week 2. How has it been going in week 2?
We have laxed a little bit. Clara has moved to like an accidental Everyman schedule.
Yeah, so I actually just woke up from my first like intentional 90-minute core sleep. Yeah, because what I've noticed is, because we've had a few times where I've overslept by between an hour, and the worst one was like 3.5 hours on top of a 20-minute nap, which was pretty like momentarily discouraging. But then noticing the ways that my 20-minute naps felt in the day or two following those oversleeps, and realizing that actually I have like noticeably like high quality 20-minute naps after an accidental oversleep, and like several nap cycles after. And then the further I'd get from that oversleep, the more difficulty I'd have having good naps. And then and like I put a bunch of like qualitative data mixed in with my quantitative data, so I feel like I should have teased them up somehow, but yeah. And so I've been looking at my difficulty for this one period of time, which actually we're in the middle of right now. Now that I've been talking for a bit, I feel better. But I'd experimented with adding a 7th nap and adjusting the sort of timing between like midnight and 7 a.m. With those naps. But now with enough oversleeps, it made me think like, if I keep up like this, I'm either going to not adapt because I'm not successfully doing the 20-minute naps only, or I will adapt, but it'll be extra hard because Benzie's leaving on Sunday.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And so like, so either I won't adapt, which will be painful and bad and set me back, and I won't have any like
benefits,
good results, or I'll have to like do something that's harder and without you that I haven't been succeeding with you. So
yeah.
So I had to just sort of like you know, look at the situation and decide what I thought made the most sense. And so I think for the last few days that you're here, I'm gonna try it this way. And so I'm gonna have a 90-minute sleep, 2:30 to 4 is where I've put it, and then I'm doing 5 naps because it does seem like that 7 naps was an improvement on 6, and so I'm doing I don't know, it like works with the equation, but yeah, but this is day 1 of that, so we'll see. Yeah.
And then I've been doing more of a spamail. Which is will you say what it is? I always forget.
SPAMAYL stands for sleep polyphasically as much as you like.
Yeah, so I've been I started off also doing like adding in the 7th nap, and then just started like taking a 20-minute nap whenever I felt like I need one, or sometimes a 10-minute nap, because a lot of times I was finding myself even waking up early from my naps. So I
wasn't doing that very much.
So I was like, okay, well, I want those minutes later. And I think a lot of that for me is being at someone else's house. Like I brought a bunch of activities to do, but a lot of them are very sedentary activities. So I either have those or I'm actively like choosing to work out. And at my own house, there's like a million things for me to do around my house, you know? So I'm taking some of those extra naps here, but when I go home on Sunday, I'm planning to cut those out and go back to full Uberman. So.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I have hit a couple. I mean, I'm still early on, but I see it as a pattern now. But I'd go through 2 days. Well, I did initially 2 days of Uberman, and then I got all the advice on Reddit to like whatever.
They're not very into it, are they?
It's really hard. Don't even try it. And so I totally took it because I felt like shit, and just my back was flaring up. So I was like, maybe that there's a better chance that it'll work. But what I see now with the Everyman 3.5, like I hit 2 days in and I crash, and I've gotten I oversleep through 1 alarm and then end up maybe with 6 hours of sleep. And I feel great. I feel great for a day, and then it's like kind of back to up and down. Like I feel good at certain times of the day. Like the other thing is like I've been drinking caffeine.
Oh, okay.
And so like right now would be my time where I'd have some tea, and that would kind of help me get through the 1 a.m. to 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. period. But I'm looking like they're totally discouraging caffeine. So today, so like I'm not drinking caffeine.
Yeah, I think during the adaptation, it's important to like not give your body any of that makeup stuff.
Yeah, I like don't know the science or the mechanisms, but I think this one there actually is like science that I've read about it, but it's like what caffeine actually does is not like, it doesn't add rest to your sort of reservoirs. Yeah. It like blocks tiredness receptors sort of. Yeah. And so it's just delaying sort of inevitable sleep needs, and then confusing your body about what it actually is wanting.
Yeah, you want your body to know that it's tired on this schedule, because then it will learn when this is how I get sleep.
Yeah, but
so you get into deep sleep right away.
Yeah.
Or like REM, REM, and SWS.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the other thing. What were you gonna say, Clara?
Oh, what was I gonna say? I don't remember.
I'm planning to try and do a video.
Caffeine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't really drink caffeine like at all before trying this. So it also like I don't really think that when people have like a little bit of science and then they extrapolate it for something that not very many people are doing, I don't consider that like really scientific. So like if you do this with caffeine and it works, that is enough argument for it being fine. Is sort of my ultimate stance. Yeah. And like just because it makes sense to me not to drink caffeine in this process, but it also made sense to me not to drink caffeine in my regular life. So that like, you know, that's like a convenient bias that gets supported for me, but it's not necessarily a universal truth.
What my pattern during just the last few days would be to have caffeine tea just during these, like the first wake 1 and wake 2, and then always have a 2-hour gap before my nap.
Yeah.
And then definitely don't have it after 4 p.m. like where I'm leading up towards my core.
Yeah, well, and that sounds really smart. And I think like what I've read about people drinking caffeine on polyphasic sleep is that if you are drinking it like right after you wake up from a nap, or some people have said if you drink it right before your nap and then you fall asleep, so it doesn't hit you until right after your nap.
It takes like 15 minutes.
Yeah, so I mean that sounds like I don't drink caffeine, and that sounds like I don't know enough about how caffeine affects my body. So, oh, was that you? Yeah.
That sounds familiar. I don't know if you guys had that on the video.
Yeah. So I don't know about any of that, but it does sound possible. I have like an extremely low tolerance for substances. So like I can't drink coffee because of my stomach. Like caffeinated tea, I drink it very seldom, and it's not really changing my life not to drink it at all. But yeah.
Right on.
I am planning to record a video to try and look at the REM sleep of my roommate when I go back home, who's a monophasic sleeper, like just of his like close up of his face, and then mine just in the 20 minutes, and see if you can see the REM like happening under my eyelids, because
fun.
Yeah.
Did Devin say yes, or are you just gonna?
He will say yes. Yeah.
I was wondering about that, if you guys, if any of the apps work, and if you guys are using some of the sleeping apps that tell you if you got deep sleep.
Oh, I've never used anything like that.
Yeah, me neither. I feel like you can tell when you get the REM sleep because you feel like amazing when you get up. So, to me, it just feels really obvious which ones I got it during.
Or like if you dream, right? Like you only dream during REM.
You can only dream during REM. So.
Yeah.
I noticed in some of my 20-minute naps that I'll wake up like thinking that I totally overslept. That it's like at least a couple hours, if not like 6. And then it turns out it's like only, or sometimes I wake up a couple minutes before. Like,
yeah. So that's like a for sure win.
That's my favorite kind of nap. I had one nap where I went went to sleep, set my alarms and went to sleep. And then I woke up on my own and I was like, oh no, I overslept by like 20 minutes, I'm sure of it. And I look at my phone and the countdown, the 20-minute timer is at like 13 minutes and 45 seconds or something. And I'm like, okay, I slept for 6 minutes at most. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll go back to sleep. And I go back to sleep and I sleep for the last 13. And when I woke up to the alarm, I felt like I had gotten 6 more hours of sleep, which is so bizarre to me because when I was monophasic, I mean, for years, my experience was I wake up to my alarm after 8 hours of sleep and I feel like I've gotten 5 minutes. And I want just 5 more minutes, and so I set it for 5 minutes, and then it feels like I got 1 second of sleep, you know? Yeah. It's like the complete opposite now with these 20-minute naps.
Yeah, so it kind of turns out when you sleep, no matter how long it is, you either like feel like you slept or you didn't. Like,
yeah, so it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's like your body, your mind is like tricking you, trying to get more sleep when either you've had too much sleep or your body is squeezing it in.
Yeah, it's really it revealed to me how much of our experience of sleep is not actual perception of reality. It's like instinct. It's like a translation of the way our bodies feel almost into thoughts about what we like. It's into things we think we're perceiving about reality, you know? Like if I didn't have a clock and I were to sleep some of these sleeps that I've had, I would just be wrong about what time it was, and then I'd be surprised by the sunrise, by like when it happened, or like, yeah, I don't know, there's all kinds of perception things. I'm like fascinated by things.
It's like projection, like your own kind of subconscious opinion about it is being projected into the sleep quality.
Yep.
It's also wild how much feeling like you slept 6 hours throws off your perception of days. Like we've been together for 2 weeks now, and we've said over and over again, oh my gosh, it feels like it's been months. Like especially with the 6 wake cycles, that's a week days.
It feels like a week. It's true.
Yeah. So there's definitely been times when like someone came and visited us in the morning, and then later in the day we're like, there's no way that was today. Like that. It feels like so long ago.
One thing I really want to mention, and that I felt like the bonding that's happening, like I mentioned this in our little thread, like is so palpable. Like I can feel it and I can just see it, like the way like you guys look at each other, and the emotional roller coaster like is phenomenal.
Yeah, we're buds.
I'm really happy we captured that.
Yeah, that's gonna be really nice to watch for like years to come.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, Benzie and I have known each other for a little over a year now, and we live about an hour away from each other.
Yeah.
So I would say we see each other basically as often as I drive to Detroit, which is pretty regular, but so on average maybe like once a week.
For a few hours.
Yeah, and so like some weekends I'll come and I'll stay for a couple of days or stay with someone, you know, something will be going on, or then other weeks I won't make it. And then like we do like, I don't know, like Facebook chatting and stuff, but then
but also not a lot of one-on-one hanging out.
Not a ton.
Because we hang out with like a group of friends usually.
So then Benzie was saying that that this experience, like, well, you like calculated it for why this is like a year of friendship.
Was 420 hours of being awake together, and I said we spend less than an hour together every day, so this is like spending a year and a half of time
for our like regular pace.
Regular,
yeah.
Prorated.
Yeah. And also adding like an overcoming a struggle in there.
Yeah.
It's
and
been
helping, because like you would do the creative ways to try to keep Clara awake.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, the day where we were at your house and you made me do the like the stand up like that song with the. I was a drama kid, so that was like a whole new realm for me. Yeah. Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like there's application for this, like for like team building or bonding or new couples, like helping. Because I see this as a total pattern interrupt, and I don't even know like what's happening, but I feel totally different, and like my energies is different, and my moods and my motivation to kind of work on my business and do all the shit that I hate, like just picking up and cleaning, like uh yeah, like how could this help with helping friends be more open or help couples like yeah.
Yeah, I have been thinking about a lot and talking about a desire to eventually start like a summer camp where people could come for 5 weeks.
Ooh.
And that would be long enough to do the whole adaptation and then like enjoy it for a couple weeks. And then that would include like a lot of like bonding activities and like classic camp type activities.
People have like sleep deprived people
24-hour.
And just like would be really cool.
Yeah, that would be really fun. Like adult sleep deprivation, like not sleepaway camp kind of.
Yeah.
Because like women get on the cycles together, like the moon cycles. Like, is there something? Yeah, is there something with sleep that it can be helpful?
Well, my thought is it would just be helpful to have like lots of people doing it with you so that there's lots of things to do to keep you awake and like people to occupy you. And also to have coaches there who are already on the sleep schedule who are not sleep deprived because they have been
oh my god
so long.
Yeah. Yeah, if it was like straight up your job to keep me awake at the times that I'm supposed to be awake and you were not also adapting, then like this would have been probably a different experience. Yeah.
Yeah, and my thought is if because I think the best way to do the Everyman is actually to do the Uberman and fail
into it.
But do the Uberman, like create those REM nap habits and then be like, okay, now I'm gonna give myself that core sleep. So I think even for people who weren't interested in doing it long term, that still would be like good to have at the summer camp, and then they can fall like maybe the last week or two we could like help people figure out what will be the best pattern for them to actually take home.
Man, and you could have like
awesome
like sleep study machines too where you like measure people's brainwaves and stuff.
Yeah, that would be another cool thing too, is not enough people do it now to really study it.
Yeah.
But if we had like
study everybody.
If we had a camp with let like I'm imagining like 25 up to 100 people depending on how long it goes and how big it gets, you know, we could provide a lot more data, and also like have people to follow to get more long-term data on people doing polyphasic sleep. So because it is sad right now that all the books and all the information that's out is mostly interpretations of monophasic sleep studies plus a bunch of anecdotal evidence. You know, that's all we have right now, and it would be really cool to get studies of like large sample sizes of people actually doing Uberman. So
or at least like statistically significant N values. Like it's just it's hard for me to believe like anything anyone says on the internet fully about this topic because there's just so little data. It would be like saying, oh yeah, we're like allergic to the moon. It's like, okay, well like 6 people have been to the moon. So like maybe we're not as a human race, you know?
Well, just being able to see the camp counselors and what it's like afterwards, like I haven't seen or talked to people who've adapted and like what does it look like?
we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. So
well, you'll probably link the videos, right?
Yeah, but I didn't even ever do an intro.
Oh, okay. I find interesting. I'm not a YouTuber, or at least like a real YouTuber. I guess I do have a YouTube, but
do you watch YouTube though?
I mean, sometimes.
You don't like when people make intros?
Well, but there's like a title. I've already. I mean, I already know what's happening because I clicked on the title. I don't know.
Okay.
When I made videos, my videos always I would just like start. There'd be like a couple moments, and then the title of the song would go up, and then it would disappear. And the song would start.
Well, that's an intro.
But maybe that's because but it's not like, hey guys, here's my song today. This is what it means to me, and it was little background information. I wrote it over the course of the last like 3 weeks, and now I'm really excited to share it to you. Okay, I hope you like it. Bye.
I know it's not. Yeah.
That was pretty funny little joke there. Sorry. I don't know. I don't have judgment.
Well, I didn't even get to finish my sentence to tell them we had technical difficulties, so we're waiting for Ty to come back.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sorry. Blame it on the sleep.
No.
Blame it on the sleep, Dad.
I'm
blame it on the sleep.
Your competitive talking style.
Oh, that's true. Also, blame it on my like minor judgment of the YouTube like thing.
You say minor, but you've been making fun of it nonstop.
No, not. You know what nonstop means, Clara? It means without stopping.
I know, but do you know the practical use of that term is not literal?
Wait. I disagree with that usage then.
Okay, you can disagree if you want. That's how people are using it.
I'm going to disagree nonstop. And when I say nonstop, I mean nonstop.
That's not true because you'd have to focus your attention on it all the time.
Huh.
When you're not thinking about it, you're not actively disagreeing with it.
I don't know if I agree with that because, like, to disagree with something, do you have to be thinking about it? I don't know. Like, disagreement is like a box that you check, and you don't like to stop disagreeing would be to like start agreeing with it.
I don't think that's true. I think agreeing is also you have to be thinking of it to agree with it, and you have to be thinking of it to be disagreeing with it. So most of the time you're sitting in a not thinking about it space.
You should bring this up at the pedantic semantic party next week.
I don't know if I'm going there.
What? Why not?
Well, it's mostly exhausting.
Yeah?
And I don't like arguing.
Oh.
And I don't like semantics.
Oh.
Yeah. The last one I didn't like talk the whole time pretty much. And then I went and took a nap in the middle because it was too stressful.
Okay. You are free to not attend if you choose.
I know that. Yes.
Obviously. I just sometimes I like know you pretty well, but there are so many things about your like tastes and preferences that are so different from mine that I know I've forgotten them multiple times.
Yeah.
Like it's taken me like a year to learn, like to really learn that you're not competitive and that you're like anti-competitive. Because I'm so competitive. It feels so natural for everyone to be this way.
Welcome back. Hello again.
Yay. Hey. Yeah, it's working now.
Yeah, I'm so glad.
My computer loves to do a full restart.
Yeah.
Almost like
especially when you like are having a meeting with strangers. That's the perfect time.
This worked out for me too because my computer finally worked, so we were able to move things back over to my computer, which I like.
So what's happening? How come you guys can't keep the summer camp going?
I live an hour away and have a life.
Yeah, I think mostly just because Benzie picked dates and put limits on it, and I'm okay with that. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
And I live alone, and I have an autoimmune disease, so I'm playing it really, really safe with the pandemic.
Yeah.
Kenzie lives with someone who just recently had to go back to work. And there were a handful of other people that we were spending time with who were for a time like following all the same sort of safety like quarantine practices that I was. So I was able, or I chose rather to I chose to spend time with them in person because of that like shared guidelines we were using. But some of them decided not to do them anymore. One person, her son's father wanted him to go back and forth again, and so that precluded her because he wasn't doing any of the practices.
Yeah, so the numbers just dwindled down to only me.
Our group got small there, and now it's
wow.
Yeah, and so I really do have been like loving living with Clara, but I do like miss my house. I feel like I'm having a harder time doing the schedule at a place where I don't have as much to do. And also I really like to be touched and
and you have like people you can snuggle with in your life, and like we just don't really snuggle, and that's so and I am feeling just like homesick, you know, so but we definitely plan to keep like doing video chats and stuff, and I think this has been really helpful for me because my pandemic experience thus far has been a lot of like it's been a lot of introverting, and I'm an extrovert, and I've gotten kind of depressed, and staying with you or like having you with me for several weeks has revealed to me some of the ways that my like de facto solo routine is not conducive to positive mental health. And so I'm thinking critically about like what do I need to prioritize when I'm alone again in order to feel better, because I like haven't been depressed basically the whole time you've been with me. Just because you like disrupt having another person nearby just disrupts my like spiraling mental patterns, and it just makes it easier to problem solve. So
that makes me not want.
Oh
no.
Yeah, I'll kick you out eventually.
Oh
yeah. Because I'm like homesick for having my own space, and like my house is kind of weird. There's no doors in my house. In my, like bedrooms, so
yeah, it's definitely a close quarter.
It's a really small house.
And some things I'm excited about too, because I'm gonna like keep having the YouTube channel, is I'm going on a road trip with some people, so I think it'll be interesting to document like this is what like long-term driving looks like on the sleep schedule, and some other like interesting things I have to do with it. So
well, but with distance and the kind of depression and stuff, like can Zoom help? Or like, because you have someone there personally in person, physical. Is there aspects that helps that you've noticed?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, virtual calls like this are better than nothing, definitely. But I think that, so when I first figured out that the pandemic was like going to be really serious and that I should call into work the next day, it was kind of, I mean, my first several days were just like a lot of mourning. I was like crying a lot and doing a ton of research and posting on Facebook and trying to convince people to change their behavior, which I think was more of a coping mechanism than an actual like useful, like a good use of my time. And then over and over again for the last several months, I feel like it's been like a roller coaster between like deciding, oh, I need to acclimate to the pandemic and be totally used to this as my new life and be fine with it, and then like a crash of, oh, I'm not fine with it and this is terrible and I'm forgetting to eat and drink water, because my pre-pandemic life, I really had crafted a life that worked for me, the amount that I spent with time with friends, the amount I moved my body, the ways that I remembered to like brush my teeth or eat or drink water, like even just filling my water bottle, a lot of them were tied with like times that I left the house. and now there's like no real reason for me to leave.
Oh yeah.
So I've had to like start from scratch on a lot of like really basic needs, and I feel like I've gotten caught up on a lot of those basic needs, but the sort of more invisible needs, like spending time with people, thinking through your problems, things like that happened naturally in my normal life. Now relearning how to do those, it's taken a lot of time, and I think in my first several weeks to like the first month of the pandemic, I was prioritizing spending time with people on like Zoom meetings like this. I think I had like 3 several hour phone calls a day, and I really scheduled it out. I mean, like I said, I'm an extrovert, so I really took that seriously. And then as my sleep schedule started getting later and later, and I got more depressed, and then I just sort of stopped making plans. And it's not like everyone forgot about me.
Totally.
A little bit out of sight, out of mind, and people assume.
You were really hard to get a hold of.
Really?
That was not out of sight, out of mind. You would messages once a day.
Yep, that's true.
And then
what, once a day?
Check messages.
Yeah, I'm a slow responder. That's true. I'm a slow responder even in regular life, because I like to prioritize being in my real presence, like with with or doing the activities, like whatever I'm doing. I don't want to be checking my phone all the time.
Do not disturb.
So it is my habit to take a while to respond to people, and I think I clung to that while losing touch with people and not taking care of my like social needs. And also like I think part of it was I was depressed for like other reasons, like global pandemic is really hard, and I think I had a lot of feelings like I don't want to hang out with anyone because I'm in a bad mood. I'm like sad. I'm not going to be fun, and I don't want to disappoint people or like train them that I'm now not fun to spend time with. I don't know. There's like a lot that went. Yeah. And like it's hard to convince yourself out of that when you're all alone. And you really believe that that's like a reasonable.
It reminds me of this thing I get into sometimes where I'm like, oh, going like I don't have the energy to go to a party. But when I realized at some point was I'm such an extrovert that it was because I had been alone for hours, and if I just party, I would then have tons of energy to be at a party.
Yeah, you are a true expert, Pansy. I choose not to go to parties, and it's a good choice. But yeah, definitely right now I need to make sure I'm getting social interactions.
And I think besides physically being here with you, I keep scheduling people to come over and do distance hangs with us.
Yeah, it like doesn't occur to me to invite people to like come sit in my yard and chat with me in person, because I imagine in the back of my head that that's like a pain and that it won't be worth it to people. But you've just asked people and they've said yes, and then they've come and I assume have enjoyed it.
And they've had that for like 4 hours.
So I think I need to start doing that. Like actually inviting people to do that, because my previous default was just to never say that I wanted that from anyone.
Yeah. And I also think it's valuable to remember that like everyone is having a bad time during the pandemic. So you thinking like you're going to be depressed and sad and like not that pleasant to hang out with, like everybody's kind of on that scale right now. So.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, there's parallels with this whole schedule, like the polyphasic sleeping and 20-minute naps and scheduling everything and having to really keep to a schedule, and there's no fluidness that a lot of times like I totally live by, like kind of planning my schedule as I go. And for me, I would say I'm more introverted, and I have to, especially during the pandemic, like I had to, for a while, like push myself. Okay, I have a work from home business, so I don't have to go out. I got groceries every 2 weeks, like kind of stockpile, and now I don't see anybody. Like, so I got this advice, like schedule one thing a day. Like after work, 5 o'clock, have something like start scheduling people in.
Yeah.
And for a while I was doing that. It was amazing and hard and vulnerable and uncomfortable. But like now with this sleep schedule, it's kind of like a whole different thing to figure out.
Yeah. One thing, this will be more post-pandemic, but I've seen like other people on the schedule like feel like they have to be at home to take their nap, so they like will only make plans that like give them enough time to go home.
Yeah.
But in my experience, like I was fine like sleeping in my car, or most people who I hang out with, I could say like, can I go lay down in your bed for 20 minutes? You know, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and my sleep growing up and in college was so messed up that I actually have a lot of experience sleeping in weird places too.
Yeah.
Like I once did an inventory of all of the classes I took all 4 years of high school, and there was only one class in the 4 years that I was positive I had not slept in. And so I slept in orchestra, I slept in gym, I slept in jewelry design, I slept in every like academic core class. There was I remember in science classes like crawling under the science like table and falling asleep on the floor like with my scarf as a pillow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was
so, yeah,
after class, before class, during class?
Yeah.
Very odd.
Like there would be a lecture and I would just call it quits.
Yeah, fascinating.
Cello in orchestra for a while, and I like the cello is like an instrument you're holding between your legs, and you can just sort of put your head right on it. And it's not like we were supposed to be playing while I was sleeping. Like the teacher would work with the violins, and so her back is turned, and I'm right up front, but just we're not doing anything, and I would get in 10 minutes here and there.
You've been prepping for this for your whole life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Power napping.
Uh-huh. Well, and realizing that I think the reason I was so tired is because I never had good sleep hygiene, and my so I always stayed up too late for my daytime schedule, and then was forced to wake up by the bus, and I often missed my bus, and then I'd get to school however I managed, and then I'd be so tired that I would sleep in every class. And then get home, and like really the time I felt awake was like kind of right when I got home from school, and then I'd eat breakfast, and I'd like have my whole day, and then it'd be nighttime and I would still feel really awake. Yeah, it was just that was the cycle.
I have always been someone who likes staying up all night, and I remember when I was in school, I would get in a lot of trouble because the time I wanted to sleep was right after I got off school until like 1 a.m, and then I wanted to just like be awake all night, and I got in trouble for that a lot.
Yeah. I used to think that my algorithm was that when I was awake, I just wanted to stay awake forever, and when I was asleep, I wanted to stay asleep forever. I just never liked changing which phase I was in, but
one or the other.
Yeah, but now at least with the Uberman like attempt, I feel like 20-minute naps are such a like minuscule disruption to my day that I feel way less resistant to them.
Yeah.
And knowing that they're only going to be 20 minutes, like it frees a lot of my my mental block there.
I also think knowing you only have to be awake for 3.5 hours does the same thing. Like, oh, I'm still tired, but you know what? I could do this for 3 hours.
Yeah. I was reading today that a lot of people on polyphasic sleep schedules, although they're sleeping less, they feel like they're sleeping more because there's more like going to bed and getting out of bed and going back. And so one of the things it said was like, even if you really love sleeping, you might like this more. Even though you're getting less sleep, you'll feel like you're getting more sleep. And so
yeah, it does make me sad. Like I feel like so many people, the thing they say like, oh, I can't do that because I like to sleep. It's like, yeah, but
quality and quantity.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were definitely. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'm still having trouble with the REM and SWS, and I got somewhere that if you get too much sleep, too much maybe SWS, that will throw you off and it'll be harder to get REM.
That's why I get no SWS.
Is that like if you're doing 20-minute Uberman, then you don't really get SWS?
Yeah, from when I did Uberman in the past, I had never even heard anybody talk about SWS before, so it wasn't part of my like calculation. And just because it worked for me so well in the past, and I only quit at those times because I got jobs that wouldn't like allow for the schedule to be reasonable.
Yeah.
I have no clue what the long-term health effects are, but I never like felt a need to figure out how to get the SWS because I didn't even know it existed. So
yeah, it sort of makes me think like, I don't know. You know how if you don't tell someone that something is impossible, then they'll just like do it because they think it's possible, and then you'll be like, oh, we forgot to tell you, we were convinced that humans couldn't do that. But it like doesn't matter. We did it now, and that's sort of like a thing through history. Or it's also kind of related to like, what is it, like the 4-minute mile? Like they thought it was possible to run a mile in under 4 minutes, and then one person did it, and then now it's like a casual thing to do. I mean, that I certainly can't do it,
but high level high schoolers to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the mind over matter thing is kind of a bigger part of this than a lot of people, at least on the internet, seem to acknowledge. Because like we just don't actually know what the limits of the human body are in terms of sleep, and we don't actually have a lot of knowledge about like why our sleep does what it does for us, and sort of I just like, I get this vibe that like a lot of people on the internet think that this is all really scientific, like this is your reservoir for delta wave, the slow wave sleep, and this is your reservoir for REM, and these are like fixed quantities, and this is how you get them. But like, before people did polyphasic sleep, we thought that we knew different things about that, and we thought we were right, and then seems like we were wrong about some of that.
And also, from my understanding, even with monophasic sleep, and even with the studies we've done, sleep is a mystery in a lot of ways.
Yeah, there's that guy who, like, I forget if he had, like, a bicycle accident or something, or maybe he just woke up one day, but he, like, stopped needing to sleep. And he hasn't slept in, like, 30 years. Yeah, I think he's in Thailand, maybe. But he, like, doesn't need to sleep anymore. And, because, like, the part of his brain that says you need to sleep just, like, broke. And now he just doesn't sleep. At all. No polyphasic anything. Yeah. I feel like sleep is kind of like the electron. Like, if you've ever studied physics, everybody talks about the electron, and we believe in the electron, and we describe the electron, and we can use the electron in, like, experiments, but we don't actually know what it is. Like, it's invisible and very small and very weird, and like, the best physicists, you ask them what's an electron, and they're like, we don't know. We don't know. We have no idea. It's a shot in the dark. And I think that's my approach to the sleep stuff. Is like, we don't actually know, and we need to remember that.
Nice. Humbling.
And another thing that I think is really cool is after you do this once, it's way easier to do over and over again. Like, even if you quit and do it again. I don't know if you watched the video that I posted that was like, this was my Uberman experience from 2012. But in it, because that was my second time doing it, I was like, wow, I'm sorry, everybody. This is so boring because I acclimated immediately.
Yeah, and it was like, what, 2 years after your first time?
Yeah. So my first time was really hard. And then that time it was just like, as soon as I did it, my body was like, hey, I know what this is, and just did it. So.
And then there's the videos of you guys crying. I'm like, oh my, I just like, maybe this is my day two. I'm like, I saw that video, and then I get Reddit people going, don't do this. Like, stay away. You'll fail. Like, oh.
Yeah, I was telling Benzie before we started, like, my attitude about kind of everything hard is that all pain is finite. Like, that's a really comforting sort of mantra that I came up with in college when I was on the rowing team, that like no matter what pain I'm feeling, it definitely will end. Like mathematically speaking, it will have an end. Just because I have a finite life, like even if my pain lasts my whole life, I will die. So that is finite.
I thought about that probably yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, this life is not forever, and I like the theories of multiple lives. It's like next life could be better.
Yeah, so all pain being finite, I have like a lot of willingness to experience pretty intense discomfort for like, even just because it's interesting. Like I feel like that's a big part of my motivation, was just like, yeah, this will be a fascinating journey into being very uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I feel a little like frustrated with all the people saying like Everman is like horrible and don't try it, who have never attempted it.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad. I'm disappointed that I never had hallucinations. Yeah, it just like wasn't that bad. And there were definitely moments, like, you know, between 5 minutes and a couple of hours where I was like distressed maybe a little bit, and definitely wanted it to feel differently, but even those moments were just like not the worst pain I felt in my life.
Well, yeah, and I remember even a few times on this one, like I was having a horrible time and crying and like really wanted to die. And then you're like, but then recording the video on its own and having that conversation, like within the video, I feel like I feel better. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so. Yeah. There was that time you were sitting there and I was sitting over there and you were crying. And I was like, well, why don't you record a video? And you were like, okay.
Oh.
Did, and there was like that one part where you're just like crying on screen and I don't know, you were born to record yourself.
Well, what I've noticed with emotions is that there's been 2 days, like typically like I'm less expressive, less emotional. I want to be, but there's stuff kind of covering or pushed down. And what I've noticed is that on not every day, but certain days, like I'll just cry. And like my mom, I've been staying with a friend, and my mom had her birthday. She died from cancer, and Friday was her birthday, and my friend asked about it, and I just started to cry. And it's like, wow, I'm not typically this expressive and open, and it felt really good. It felt like cathartic and freeing.
Yeah, I think feeling our emotions, even our negative ones, is a positive thing. It's like there's no such thing as a bad trip. There's no such thing as a bad emotional experience unless you're resisting it. Yeah, I find it really valuable to have.
That's where the pain is, like the risk, trying to stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is bringing like it's like what I said before, the pattern interrupt, that like I'm not sleeping the same way. Like my life is really not the same, and so these maybe trauma. Like, did you guys mention trauma? Like is able to come up and surface and maybe be able to process things that we haven't been able to process for our whole life.
Yeah, I feel like it's like a catalyst that you can sign up for. You know, you can give yourself this sort of life.
Yeah.
A little bit. You know, that I feel like people try to catalyze their lives with all sorts of things, like like, you know, like therapy or a big move, or like quit your job or break up with someone or whatever, you know, or like chop off all your hair. Like we're always trying to reset things and sort of trick ourselves into being different. And I think that some of those tactics are more successful than others. But this one, I mean, I guess I don't know how successful it will be. Like, we'll see how different my life is going forward, but, you know, or how different I want it to be. But I do feel like this is like a more broader, it's a broader and more sort of staying disruption in my regular rhythm of life. More so than a haircut.
Or shop therapy, shopping.
Yeah.
Retail therapy. I was thinking also like another extreme one is those, I just blanked on it, but the sweat lodges. Like, yeah.
Yeah. A good friend of mine is an ENTJ, like his Myers-Briggs type, and so what I mean by that is he's like not very emotionally expressive, and he's sort of no nonsense, just like get things done. He's very effective in his life, but he has found the most effective way to deal with his emotions is to have a sweat lodge like once a month or so. And so he just like has a little thing he built with his like very effective, he's just like a handsy like person. He like does things immediately when he thinks of them, which is very strange to me. Yeah, it takes me like months of thinking and like kind of planning to start a new project. But yeah, and he just like steals rocks from like I don't know, corporate like parks and heats up the rocks so they break apparently. And then he heats up the rocks and does a sweat lodge, and it like gets him to, he just like processes his emotions in that one specific way. Yeah, I think that's really cool.
All the backlog.
Whereas I feel like in order to be and on top of my emotional sort of ticker tape, I have to meditate like daily, at least during the pandemic.
I feel like I'm just a person who just has my emotions all the time.
Well, you are not a robot like me. So.
Yeah.
So less structured, more free flow.
You're a creature of the forest. I'm a creature of ones and zeros. That's how I imagine it.
Well, another thing that I've seen is priorities in life and like procrastination. And it feels like I don't feel pulled. There's not the pull to procrastinate or to like, time feels more precious even with more time. Like, it's so strange. Like, I'm like, something around the structuring of like 4 hours and 20 minutes and like, it's like and kind of seeing their sweet spots in those, like where I really feel alert, I really feel crisp, and I don't find myself binge watching or getting stuck in Twitter that much, like, but I don't have to push myself or force myself. It's just like oh, like I'm kind of I both want to make like have this time be doing stuff that's really meaningful and has an impact that I hadn't been doing before, and so I don't want to waste it. But yeah, like that's one thing I really notice a difference.
I think part of that is because the 4 hours feels like a day. It does feel like, okay, my day is actually 4 hours long, so that's all I have. And then also the disruption is so useful because you can't sit and watch a whole season of a TV show because you have to go take that nap.
And that thing just fades, like that impulse, the compulsiveness, impulse.
And then I also think when it comes to like doing work, that it's pretty easy to convince myself to do like an hour of work, So knowing that like it's going to end and I'm going to nap and might make me use the whole 4 hours to do an activity.
Yeah, that's true. I do think that a lot of my like mental blocks in being productive or doing the things I want to do before trying this out was that I would wake up and I think, oh, I should do that thing and it's going to take so long and I should work on it for like 12 hours. And I'm so daunted by that thought.
Yes.
delay starting until it's like 6 p.m. And then it's like, well, I can't do it now because it's the evening. You can't work in the evening. And then I like, I mean, these are like imaginary rules in my mind, but yeah, but I just put it off. I'll put it off for weeks that way. I'll do that every day and just like let the guilt build up. When I could have just done like 5 minutes a day and then been done already. But with this, it's like it's so much more compartmentalized, and it's like it's by its very structure necessarily less daunting.
Yeah. And I think that like the desire to like sit and watch TV, once you start it, it's very hard to quit doing that. But I feel like when you have the forced disruptor, like when I wake up every time, I don't have the desire again and again and again. Mm-hmm. But usually if you have that desire once, you're locked into it for a whole day.
You know, another thing about binging television is that I think a portion of my urges to sit down and watch TV are because I'm tired in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
But I'm not trained to go to sleep when I'm tired. So instead I just do something that's very easy and low energy. Yeah. So I'll turn on. But then TV is like, I mean, it is designed to keep you watching. And so then I'm trapped.
Yeah.
But there's also the emotion, like it's an emotional stimulant.
Yeah.
So like it's kind of something where if I feel low energy, like I get this spark from TV, like drama, and that kind of just keeps me going a little longer.
Yep.
Yeah.
But with this, we have these like periods. So we're already we're training ourselves to go up and down and stop and go.
Yeah. Something I found harder is figuring out when to brush my teeth, first of all.
Yeah.
Like I noticed like in the beginning I was not keeping up with that very well, and then now I like brush my teeth pretty regularly. And like changing my underwear and changing my clothes. Like I feel like before there was a clear like I take off.
You wake up and then
maybe
at night.
Which wake up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about
like, oh, I've been wearing the same clothes for like 3 days. I don't even know if that's true. I actually have no clue how.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, check the videos.
Like, oh, I'm disgusting, and you're like, not.
Related to that, like, what about eating? Are there some guidelines to not eat on the first wake, or?
I've just been eating when I feel hungry. So.
I think that there's a reasonable argument to be made that you'll need to eat slightly more because you're awake for more hours. So your energy, your like energy needs will be
eat more.
Although probably not by much, that you need to like be intentional, like force yourself to eat more. But I've been mostly just eating when hungry. Yeah. And also eating as a tactic to stay awake.
Yeah.
It's been difficult. That's been a really solid strategy. Like there were times when I was really losing consciousness involuntarily, but I pulled out those snap peas and would just slowly nibble on these like snap peas for like hours, and it would get me through.
And I also wonder how much of this like time warping is because of the pandemic, like plus the schedule, because I feel like if I had plans with other people and was doing activities throughout the day and leaving my house,
right,
I would know when to eat, when to brush my teeth, and when to change my clothes.
Because during regular life, I make plans to have breakfast or lunch or dinner with people, and I'm not doing that now.
Yeah. And I don't remember this being like as much of a factor when I did it previously. So I think this is like a odd like pandemic plus weird sleep schedule problem.
So. Ty, have you seen the video? There's a YouTube video called Spaceship You. Have you seen that?
No.
It's like a maybe 12-minute animated little thing. It's just advice for living in isolation in the pandemic, and it imagines that your house is a spaceship, and it talks about like I don't know, it turns the spaceship into like a metaphor for sort of creating your life in such a way that you will come back to Earth, so to speak, better than you left it. and like able to
Awesome.
rejoin society. I don't know. I found it really like inspiring and helpful, and it talks about like compartmentalizing your space so that you've got like, you know, you sleep here, but only you sleep, and then here's where you exercise, and here's where you like create, and here's where you relax. And oh, why did I bring that up though? What were we talking about right before this?
Eating or regular life causing time regulation?
Oh yeah, so we were talking about how it's like during the pandemic, it's like maybe extra weird to try a polyphasic sleep schedule, and that's how I feel. It feels like I'm not doing this schedule in the real world. I feel like I'm doing it on a spaceship in space, where like even the sunrise and sunset are like part of my equation. And like the sleep reversal I experienced before trying this, where I was like fully nocturnal, it was it was pretty disorienting, like, and it really felt like being on a spaceship, because I would sleep during all of the daylight hours and then be awake all night and talk to no one, and it really felt like I was adrift in outer space, like with no contact.
I'd love to do this in a space station.
Yeah, that would be sweet.
Huh.
Yeah.
I was telling Benzie a little bit earlier that I'm hoping that by the time we're old and need like nursing homes, that we will have nursing homes in space, like zero gravity for our rickety bones and stuff, and that we'll just play video games when we're old in the retirement homes.
Those video games are going to be so good.
Yeah. Well, and Betsy was like, well, but our hands will have like arthritis. And I was like, no, they're going to figure that out. Like, our generation is very into video games. And so we're going to want to play, like, we're going to want to do LAN parties and Smash Bros and everything. And and they have adaptive controllers now for people with disabilities. But by the time we're old, I believe there will be a market for adaptive controllers for people with arthritis and poor vision.
Yeah. There'll be little bots that are in our body that clean out the calcitration.
I'm into it. Yeah, fingers crossed.
Have you told other people in your life that you're doing the schedule? Like, have you gotten reactions from
people I come across when it comes up? Definitely. Like, I'm asking because I didn't know anyone who's doing this. Your YouTube was the first person other than in a book. And so I told one class like that I'm taking, like I told them, like, hey, does anybody know about this? Like, has anybody tried this? Like, is it crazy? Like, is it possible? And nobody really even heard of it.
Yeah.
And then one friend who has insomnia, she just is kind of jumped on doing it with me somewhat, like trying it out. Yeah, I was kind of wondering, like, what if doing it for a couple of days just to see, kind of see the benefit of having more time, and then deciding it's like, okay, like if I want to continue more, it's gonna get worse.
Yeah.
Potentially before it gets better. At least you get to feel some of the benefits.
Yeah. A friend of mine who has a lot of like sort of wide sleep issues was saying to me that she was nervous about how this was going to go for me, because she said, like, if it goes really well and this, like, you know, solves all of your sleep problems, then it might mean that I should do it. And she was like, I really don't want to. But if it works, then she might end up doing it, which I thought was really funny.
Yeah.
But
what could help? How does it help with people with insomnia? Like, is that that friend has insomnia, or?
Well, the woman who wrote Uber Sleep, she was suffering from pretty terrible insomnia, and she said that, like, just a couple of days into the Uberman process, all her sleep problems went away. And I think it's probably because, like, if you're if you're trying to sleep and you're thinking too hard about it and you like really want to sleep but your body is somehow not doing it for you, and you go from that to like, all right, fine, body, no more sleep for you ever, basically, then it's like a power move almost, and suddenly your body is like, oh shit,
who's in charge?
I want to sleep, and you're only giving me 20 minutes at a time. Yeah, so I think that's probably how it works for insomnia. And also like the shorter sleep cycles, like 20 minutes is not long enough really to experience like sleep paralysis or sleepwalking or things like that, which are other things that people have cured with this kind of stuff.
Because deep sleep brings on some of those things.
Yeah, I think so. And like just the like I've never sleepwalked, but I understand it doesn't happen usually in the first 20 minutes of your sleep. It happens like in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And so if there is no middle of the night for you, then you're probably pretty safe.
Yeah.
I
wish I could remember who it was, but back in 2012 when I did this, there was a girl who had been doing it for a very long time on YouTube who was a graphic designer. And I remember watching her quit, and she had been doing it for years. And she said that she like was convinced that it was the reason she like couldn't lose the last 10 pounds of the weight she wanted to lose.
Oh, I hate
and
that.
Like she had tried everything and she thought sleeping more was like gonna be the solution.
Did she ever follow up or?
No, not that I remember. But yeah, I remember that being like very sad for me to lose that one person.
Yeah.
That was like to me like an example of like people who can do this long term. So
yeah. I feel really lucky that I've known relatively a lot of people who have done it successfully because like Ty, I mean, it is a pretty uncommon thing. And so I think most people don't know anyone who's ever done it, but I know you who's done it twice successfully. And I know Grayson who's done it once successfully. And I actually found out recently that my friend Frank tried it.
Well, he said he didn't do it.
Yeah, he didn't adapt, but I'm just saying like to have, including Frank and Ben, that's 4 people who at least have known about it and been interested enough to try.
Yeah.
And 2 people who were successful. So right there, I have like more resources of people who have the same kinds of interests and 2 proof cases that it's like a real possible thing for people that I've met instead of just like weirdos who are sort of distantly connected to me through the internet.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of touches into this idea that I was thinking about with personality types. You mentioned Myers-Briggs. Like, do you think, and you just said like these people who have similar interests or something like that, like, do you think there are types where people are more open, more receptive, they're maybe more experimental? Or...
I mean, I'm a big Myers-Briggs nerd, and I like, huge disclaimer that I do not believe in Myers-Briggs. Myers-Briggs is like it's an overlay of like pattern seeking on top of human brains, which I don't think can be compartmentalized into discrete personality types. Like, that's my official stance. It is just self-selected horoscope types. But that being said, I have found Myers-Briggs really useful to learn about. I mean, I think I said earlier that I feel like I'm like a robot, and what I mean by that is there's a lot of things about humans that I didn't get until I started sorting them into groups. Like,
yeah.
But in any event, my guess would be that people who have an N in their Myers-Briggs instead of an S would be way more likely to try an Uberman sleep schedule. Or polyphasic in general. I think N types are only 30% of the population. But in terms of like personality,
motivation, and like willingness to adapt and change and try new things, that's more N.
Yeah, well, and N types are like less invested in tradition usually, which means they're willing to like experiment and try new things and get a little, science fiction with their real life, and
and for adventure.
Totally.
Yep. Well, and off the top of my head, I guess I don't know Frank Myers-Briggs type, but I believe all the other people that I know who have done it are N types. So and them being only 30% of the population makes that, I don't know, seem statistically significant. Although, of course, it's still too small of a sample size, but make sure you Myers-Briggs type all the people.
You could take it in the other way. That's like, you have 4 people out of all the people, whatever, that seems like, and their ends, like, that seems like significant. But
yeah, well, and
also we're only friends with ends.
Like, yeah,
not on purpose, but
I do think that, like, all the ends I've talked to are like, whoa, all my friends are ends, and all my friends are ends. I mean, the majority anyway. And I think ends really seek each other out because there's a desire. Yeah. There's a desire for that endness, and ends are sort of not.
Well, also it's a little bit weirdos. Of a weirdo club.
Yeah, they're the weirdos. A little bit, yeah. And I remember early on, like, realizing, oh, I know 2 whole people. This is before I learned about Frank or Bent, but I'm thinking, like, I know 2 people who have done this, like, not just know about it, but they've done this, and that means I'm awesome because 2 weirdos who did this really cool thing are friends with me, and awesome. I found them, and they, like, stayed in my life. Like, I took that as, like, a statement about me as a person, that I had, like, found these weirdos and kept them, and yeah.
There's something I definitely felt watching both of you in the videos, is like, oh, these people are my people. Like, just like, I think besides the end, like, I think there's a people, I don't know what it for Myers-Briggs, but there's a people oriented, like a compassionate, like caring about people component. Like, is there a letter for that?
Fingers is judging would be that, right?
Yeah, we are both P types. Yeah.
P? Yeah, I feel that with you two.
Yeah. Do you know your Myers-Briggs type, Ty?
I've done it. I swear it's been different at different times, but I don't recall which ones.
That's okay. I'm mostly out of the habit of meeting everyone in my life to know their type, but it's still interesting to me.
The classes that I'm taking are called Higher Alignment, and it is something similar. They look at types. There's 7 types of creativity, and along with other factors, but it's knowing your types. Like, you know how to relate to people. You can see it, and then adjust to actually be able to connect with someone who's a different type, or that there's certain types that kind of clash more, and some that yeah,
I think that typology and stuff is neuroscience, but I think it's really useful anyway. Like, one thing I wish they taught in schools, like elementary even, is how to, like, analyze the way that you naturally work, and then observe the ways that other people naturally work, and then see how those things are different and learn how to adapt to that. Because I feel like I was not taught that. I was taught that, like, everybody works this way. Like, it wasn't until high school that I found out that most people were visual learners. And I was, like, the only tactile learner in that class where we took this little test. And I was like, I had no idea. And then when I started noticing all of the sort of impacts of that difference, that was when I started, having more success in classes, or, like, understanding why I was struggling in certain classes and not others, or, like, how I should explain things to people. Something. It was really useful.
That's funny to me because I remember in elementary school being tagged as a kinetic learner. And going to the talented and gifted classes, like the kinetic learners got put in special classes.
Whoa! Well, why didn't I get special classes? I was freshman year of high school. I was so miserable that I was begging my mom to homeschool me. And then sophomore year, I took that biology class randomly, and the teacher did that test. And I was like, oh my gosh. And now it made all this sense why these classes I was good and these classes I was struggling. And actually, I wonder if maybe there were gifted classes for the kinesthetic learners in my school, but they didn't notice that I was a tactile learner, because the ways that I use tactile learning are not, like, I excelled in math and music, and the ways that I understand those subjects are very tactile, but it's like tactile in my brain, so that's maybe not as obvious. I don't really know. Yeah.
There's a bunch of tests for it, so.
Yeah.
But I think a teacher had to like tell you to go
They
take
had to
the
flag
test.
you, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh man.
Wow. Awesome.
I'm so glad that you reached out. This was such a fun conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't feel as comfortable commenting in YouTube. But when I was looking for you on Instagram, like, so.
And
Yeah.
you're comfortable with me posting this like chat on YouTube?
Yeah,
Cool.
sure. However, if you have to edit however you want, like.
Yeah, I'm a pretty like low editor, kind of like let things just be long, but
Less work.
Yeah. And also, I find when I watch YouTube, I like kind of like long chatty content. I don't always want stuff that's like a crisp 10-minute.
Do you notice that? Like, there seems like a meme, like a kind of or there's this classes that teach people how to do YouTube videos, and they're like, their tone is almost all the same, their speed is the same, like the structure is the same. It's like it's really rapid fire and it's like high energy.
Yeah. So then the question becomes, do we want YouTube to have like a monolithic, like standard style? And I guess our answer is no. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just like find what I want to create content that I would watch, and what I would watch is
natural,
more long form and just less edited. So
I also like that because I think that there's that if you were succumbing to a lot of pressure to change the natural content that you enjoy making and to like, you know, to slog through like perfectionistic editing for something that isn't even natural to you, I think that would make you less likely to be a consistent creator, which would then reinforce that this is the kind of content that's on YouTube, which means that the people who enjoy your kind of content would be less likely to go on YouTube. Yeah. I'm glad you're recommending the sort of rambly type of editing.
Yeah.
Well, then you would need another platform because you aren't going to attract another.
Well, RambleTube or something.
I mean, but that's also why I have a podcast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Because I like long, rambly content.
Yeah, those are like hour-long
or
platforms.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to stay connected and explore and share notes. And
yeah, I'm super into that. Maybe we can create like a more active community than the Reddit really allows.
Yeah.
Or maybe it is active. I don't go on Discord, and I feel like they like try to push everyone onto Discord. So
yeah, I haven't even been on that yet.
Yeah, I'd be more interested in having it in places I like. So with people I like. So
well, I have a lot more to talk about, but keeping to the my sleep schedule and also the topic. Like a run.
Yeah, so let's plan to do this again in the nearish future.
Sweet, I'm up tomorrow, next day, all this week. Great.
All right. Well, have a great rest of your day today, and I'll text you.
Happy napping.
Thank you.
Well.
Okay. See ya.